Up in Utah, I've been there. I'm telling you, they have a small army guard in a nigga, multiple shifts, checkpoints, all type of. They were treating it like it was almost like a maximum security jail. Like to keep it real, Donald in Butler, Pennsylvania, didn't have better people protecting him than YoungBoy has 24 hours a day. Like I'm going up there, these niggas got silencers, they got snipers. Like these niggas was planning for some other shit. But I'm guessing when you got the money, you can just pay niggas just to be a small.
NBA YoungBoy reportedly drops around $30 million every year on security. That's not just a couple guards standing around. It's practically a full-blown private army. We're talking about armed teams, tight checkpoints leading up to his property, and protection so intense it looks like something set up for a world leader. The whole situation feels larger than life. But before getting too deep into this wild setup, there are 5 shocking details about how this operation runs that might seriously surprise you. And listen, this isn't the typical celebrity security team you see outside fancy restaurants. This is next level protection, the kind that costs more money than most people will ever see in their lifetime. It sounds unbelievable, but think about it for a second. What if being one of the biggest names in rap meant living with constant attention and serious pressure everywhere you go? NBA YoungBoy isn't just another artist dropping songs online. He's dominating charts, pulling in millions of listeners across the world, and that level of fame brings a whole new set of challenges. When someone reaches the very top, there's always people hoping to see them slip up. And this isn't just about random hate comments online. We're talking about real life risks in serious situations. Some individuals chase attention, money, or recognition, and that can turn things dangerous real fast. Think about it for a second. NBA YoungBoy has had public tensions with different figures in the industry, and his background comes from tough environments where his music reflects real experiences and real stories. When those worlds collide with massive fame, the pressure around safety can get intense. Because of that, moving around isn't simple anymore. Every step, every location, every appearance has to be carefully planned out. That's the reality when someone becomes one of the most talked about artists in the game. Life stops being normal and security becomes part of everyday living. And here's the wild part people don't always think about. It's not only industry conflicts that create risk. Sometimes overly obsessed fans can become unpredictable too, which means the security around a major celebrity has to stay alert at all times. This guy probably receives thousands of messages every single day, and while most are normal fans showing love, some people cross the line way too far. At that point, it stops being support and starts looking more like stalking behavior. We're talking about individuals trying to figure out where he stays, showing up without warning, or acting like they personally know him just because they play his music every day. Now here's the part that really makes people uneasy. Some of these overly obsessed individuals can spend huge amounts of time digging for information. They watch patterns, track public appearances, and try to predict routines. It can turn into months of planning just to get close. That's exactly why the security around him has to stay ready for anything, watching every angle and every possible situation. But this is where the story starts getting even more wild. NBA YoungBoy comes from a real street background, and people with that mindset usually don't like having security around them every second. At first, he reportedly pushed back against the idea of heavy protection because the mentality was simple: handle your own problems and stand on your own 2 feet. That kind of pride runs deep when someone grows up in tough environments. Back then, he might have felt like he could manage whatever came his way with street awareness alone, but fame changes the whole playing field. Once you become one of the most recognizable artists out there, situations get bigger and more complicated than regular personal conflicts. We're not just talking about random arguments anymore. Now you have to think about people with resources, people making plans, and individuals who might try to approach you when you least expect it. That's a completely different level of pressure to deal with. At some point, the reality of that lifestyle hits hard. Reports say he had to put pride aside and accept serious protection around him. And once you see the scale of the security operations surrounding him, it starts to make sense why that decision became necessary. And here's the wild part most people don't realize. Hiring security at this level isn't like putting up a quick job listing online. Teams often look for former military members, experienced protection specialists, and professionals trained to handle high-risk situations. These aren't just intimidating-looking guards, they're highly trained experts, and the background checks alone can take months to complete. The people hired for this kind of security can't just be anyone. Every single person has to go through deep background checks to make sure there are zero connections to anyone who could pose a threat. They also look into financial history to make sure no one could be pressured or bribed, and they check mental stability too. One weak link could ruin the whole operation, so the screening process is extremely strict, and the training is on a whole different level. These professionals likely study every corner of the property, learning the layout like a map in their head. They practice emergency situations, plan safe exits, and run drills so everyone knows exactly what to do if something goes wrong. It's basically like building a private protection force from the ground up. Now here's where the situation really sounds intense. This isn't just a couple of bodyguards standing around the gate. The setup reportedly runs more like a military-style security operation, with trained personnel working in shifts all day and night. These professionals understand surveillance, threat detection, and how to respond quickly when something unusual pops up. They're constantly watching the surroundings, who's coming near the property, what vehicles are approaching, and what's happening around the area. Communication systems stay active, backup plans are ready, and exit routes are mapped out just in case. And it doesn't stop when he steps outside either. The protection extends to the property itself, the people close to him, and even monitoring possible risks online. The whole system is designed to stay alert from every direction. No exaggeration, and that's the kind of level we're talking about here. But there's another side to this whole situation that most people forget about completely. Security today isn't just about guards and gates anymore. There's a whole digital battlefield happening behind the scenes. In the modern world, threats can come through phones, computers, and online networks. Hackers might try to break into personal accounts, track someone's location through devices, or dig around for private information. Cyber criminals could even attempt to steal financial details or leak unreleased music just to cause chaos. Because of that, a big security operation like this likely includes serious cybersecurity protection too. Experts focus on locking down accounts, protecting recording equipment, and making sure private conversations stay private. They keep watch over online activity and look for anything suspicious before it becomes a real problem. Think about it for a second. If someone managed to hack a phone and discover a person's exact location or daily schedule, all the physical security in the world could suddenly become vulnerable. That's why digital protection matters just as much as the guards on the ground. And here's another wild detail. NBA YoungBoy has been known to live in Utah, up in the Gravedigger Mountains area, and the way security reportedly operates around that location is seriously intense. DJ Akademiks once talked about visiting NBA YoungBoy's place, and what he described sounded like something straight out of an action movie. According to him, just getting near the property isn't simple at all. There are checkpoints on the road heading up the mountain, real checkpoints, the kind that make it feel like you're approaching a high security facility. Picture this for a second. You can't just casually drive up to the house and knock on the door, not even close. Anyone heading up there reportedly has to pass through multiple security stops where trained personnel check exactly who you are and why you're there. They're watching everything carefully before letting anyone move further up the road. And here's the part that shocked a lot of people. DJ Akademiks even said there are snipers positioned around the area. Yes, snipers. That means trained professionals placed at high vantage points, watching every possible path leading toward the property. This isn't just basic celebrity security. It's a full-time protection system running around the clock. Teams rotate shifts, so there's never a second where the property isn't covered by trained personnel keeping watch. But here's something really smart about the location that many people overlook. Choosing a mountain setting isn't random at all. The landscape itself becomes part of the security plan. Mountains create natural barriers and high lookout points, meaning anyone approaching the area can be spotted from far away. And because there are only a few roads leading up the mountain, controlling who gets close becomes much easier. Living in the mountains is almost like picking the perfect defensive position. The location itself works like a natural shield. On top of that, Utah doesn't have the same level of paparazzi or celebrity chasers that you see in places like Los Angeles or Miami. The population is smaller, which means outsiders trying to look around would stand out quickly. Even the weather can play a role in keeping things secure. Winters in the mountains bring snow and rough conditions, and that alone makes it harder for random visitors to sneak around unnoticed. In a way, nature becomes part of the protection system. But here's the detail that really surprised people. DJ Akademiks talked about the numbers behind this entire operation, and they sound unbelievable at first. YoungBoy reportedly lives in a house valued somewhere around $10 to $15 million. That alone is huge, but the real shock comes from the security costs. According to what was shared publicly, the plan involves spending around $2.4 million every single month for full-time protection with trained personnel. Think about that number for a second. $2.4 million each month. When you add it up across the year, that's close to $30 million annually just to maintain security around him and the property. For most people, that kind of money represents a lifetime of earnings. Yet in this situation, it's being used strictly to maintain safety and control around the environment. And there's another detail connected to his legal situation at the time. Reports mentioned that he was required to wear an ankle monitor, so the home location also had to work with those legal conditions. Even with those restrictions in place, the setup still ended up looking more like the protection level you'd expect for a major world figure. DJ Akademiks also made a comment that had a lot of people shocked. He said the security around YoungBoy's place looked stronger than the protection he saw at a major political event in Butler, Pennsylvania. Think about that comparison for a moment. The idea that a music artist might have protection that intense really shows how serious the situation around high-profile figures can get. The way this setup has been described sounds extremely strict. The property is treated almost like a high-security zone, not to keep someone inside, but to keep potential problems far away. There are multiple checkpoints, trained personnel, positioned at different posts, and surveillance systems likely covering huge portions of the land. What really stands out is that this level of protection isn't just for show. When someone becomes one of the most talked about artists in the world, attention comes from every direction. Managing that attention safely can require serious planning and resources, and honestly, what we've talked about so far might only scratch the surface. A security operation rumored to cost close to $30 million a year probably includes far more than just guards watching the gates. There could be specialists monitoring online activity, analysts looking for warning signs of potential threats, and teams focused on planning emergency responses. Some people might even work specifically on logistics like evacuation routes or secure locations if a situation ever required a quick move. Think about how deep this kind of protection could really go. There could be people watching social media around the clock, scanning for any threats or suspicious messages aimed at YoungBoy. Online activity moves fast, so staying alert 24/7 becomes a huge part of keeping someone safe in today's world. There might also be professionals gathering information about potential risks before they ever become real problems. In situations like this, security teams often stay connected with different sources and keep track of anything unusual that could affect safety. And just the logistics behind an operation like this must be massive. Coordinating multiple security teams, making sure everyone has the right equipment, training them on the layout of the property, and constantly updating them about new concerns. That alone could keep several people busy full time. A setup this large might even have its own command center. Imagine rooms filled with monitors showing different camera angles, communication systems linking every security post, and teams watching everything in real time. But here's another angle people rarely think about. A security operation this big could also have an impact on the local community in Utah. When you really stop and think about it, $30 million a year doesn't just vanish into thin air. That kind of money moves through an entire network of services. It likely goes to security companies, equipment providers, transportation costs, and many other resources needed to keep such a massive operation running smoothly. An operation this big could easily create dozens of well-paid jobs in the area. Security professionals, drivers, technical specialists, and other staff all have roles to play. Local businesses might benefit too because teams working long shifts still need food, fuel, housing, and everyday supplies. In a way, a security budget that large can ripple through the local economy. It keeps people employed, supports nearby services, and brings steady business to companies connected to the operation. Another interesting point is that strong private security can sometimes reduce pressure on local authorities. When trained teams handle protection and monitoring on site, it can help prevent situations from escalating in the first place. But there's another side to this that people rarely talk about. Living with that level of protection every single day can affect a person mentally. Imagine knowing you need a full security team around you just to move through normal life. The suddenly simple things like stepping out to grab food can't happen without planning. Every move has to be planned out carefully. Nothing is random when security is this serious. If he wants to go somewhere, the team likely has to coordinate the route, check the location, and make sure everything is cleared first. That kind of lifestyle can start to feel less like freedom and more like living inside a golden cage. And it doesn't only affect him. Think about the people close to him too. Friends, family, or anyone who wants to visit probably has to go through the same strict security process. Names get checked, arrivals get monitored, and everything has to be approved before someone can even get near the property. Over time, that level of control can make normal relationships feel more complicated. But there's another side to it that people rarely mention. Imagine the peace of mind that comes from knowing trained professionals are watching over everything around you. Knowing there are experts making sure no one can get close enough to cause harm could make it easier to rest at night. Now here's an interesting question. How does living with that kind of security affect the music itself? In one way, being protected might allow him to focus fully on creating. When outside threats aren't constantly hanging over your head, it becomes easier to sit down, write, and pour real emotions into songs. At the same time, living in such a controlled environment might create a different kind of challenge. When someone is surrounded by security and distance from everyday life, staying connected to the raw experiences that shaped their early music can become harder. Maybe that's part of why the themes in his music have shifted over time. Instead of only talking about street life, there are also reflections on success, pressure, and the complicated reality that comes with fame. And when you look at it from a business perspective, the numbers start to make more sense. Spending $30 million a year sounds massive, but when you consider the kind of revenue and influence a top artist generates, that level of protection might actually be seen as a serious investment. When you look at the bigger picture, the numbers start to make more sense. A major artist like NBA YoungBoy could be bringing in enormous revenue through music streams, shows, brand deals, and different business ventures. When someone operates at that level, the money flowing in can reach incredible heights. So even though spending around $30 million a year on security sounds unbelievable to most people, for someone generating massive income, it could actually be viewed as a calculated business move. Because at the end of the day, none of that success means much if personal safety isn't protected. Think about it for a moment. Building a career, a brand, and a whole business empire takes years of work. Protecting that success becomes just as important as creating it. In many ways, a security operation like this isn't only protecting one person, it's protecting the entire machine around him. There are families, employees, producers, and teams who depend on that career continuing to run. If something serious ever happened, the ripple effects would reach far beyond just one individual. And here's another part people don't always consider. The technology involved in a protection system this big is probably intense. We're talking about advanced surveillance cameras, night vision monitoring, motion sensors, and possibly even aerial monitoring tools watching the property. The technology alone could cost an incredible amount, sometimes more than what many people spend on a home. Think about the communication systems alone. A security team this large has to stay connected every second of the day. That likely means encrypted radios, protected phone lines, and possibly backup communication systems in case something ever disrupts the main network. Everyone needs to be able to send information instantly. Then there's the transportation side of things. Security operations at this level often rely on specialized vehicles built for protection and quick movement. These teams could be using armored vehicles designed for safety, and there may even be emergency transportation options ready if a fast exit ever became necessary. Just maintaining vehicles and equipment like that could cost a huge amount of money each year. Now put that into perspective by comparing it with other celebrities. Most high-level entertainers spend somewhere between $1 million and $2 million a year on security, and that's already considered very serious protection. But $30 million a year, that's on a completely different scale. Spending at that level is usually associated with protecting extremely high-profile figures. Even other well-known artists who have dealt with public tensions or heavy attention aren't known to operate with protection budgets anywhere close to that size. When you hear numbers like this, it really shows how seriously safety and risk management can be taken at the highest levels of fame. This isn't about showing off wealth. It's about trying to stay protected in a world where attention can bring real pressure. And there's still another important factor in this whole situation, the legal side of things. NBA YoungBoy has also had to deal with legal situations while maintaining this massive security setup, and that adds a whole new layer of difficulty. Running an operation this large already takes serious planning, but doing it while following strict legal requirements makes everything even more complicated. There has to be coordination with legal authorities, making sure security staff meet licensing rules, pass background checks, and operate within the boundaries of the law. Every detail has to be handled carefully, so nothing interferes with any legal conditions placed on him. That kind of coordination likely keeps lawyers and legal advisors extremely busy. When millions of dollars are being spent on protection, every contract, payment, and agreement has to be properly documented. On top of that, everything has to be structured correctly for financial records and tax reporting. So here's the real question: The $30 million question: is a security operation this massive actually worth it? From a business point of view, the answer could easily be yes. If that level of protection allows him to continue recording music, growing his brand, and working without constantly worrying about safety, then the investment could protect an even bigger stream of income. But from a lifestyle perspective, the answer isn't as simple. Being protected like this means living inside what almost feels like a fortress. Spontaneous outings, normal daily routines, and simple freedoms can become much harder to enjoy. At the same time, reaching extreme levels of fame often means a normal lifestyle disappears anyway. In that sense, having strong security around him might actually give him the peace of mind needed to focus on creating music and building his future without constant fear hanging over his head. And there's another important part of this whole situation that can't be ignored. This security system isn't only about protecting NBA YoungBoy himself. It's also about protecting the people closest to him. Family members, loved ones, and everyone living around that environment benefit from that level of protection. When you look at it from that angle, the huge cost starts to make a little more sense. Once someone has children and a family depending on them, safety becomes a much bigger priority. It's no longer just about one person taking risks. It's about making sure the people around you are safe too. That responsibility can completely change how someone looks at security. Spending millions might sound extreme at first, but when it's about protecting your family, every dollar can start to feel justified. After breaking down everything behind this operation, one thing is clear: Akademiks manager. A $30 million yearly security setup is on a completely different level, but when you step back and really look at the full picture, it might actually make sense. NIB, YoungBoy is living a reality that most people will never experience. The level of attention, the constant safety concerns, the pressure of keeping a career moving while also protecting the people closest to you. That's a lot for one person to handle. And here's the part that really makes you think. The fact that someone might need to spend tens of millions of dollars every year just to stay safe shows how intense fame can truly become. This isn't simply about living flashy or showing off wealth. At this level, it's about protection and survival in a world where attention can bring real risks. That's the real story behind the massive security operation surrounding NBA YoungBoy. If you learned something new about this wild setup, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment, and let me know what you think. Is $30 million a year worth it for this kind of protection? And don't forget to subscribe and share this video if you want more deep dives into the unbelievable lifestyles and behind the scenes realities of your favorite artists. More crazy stories are on the way, so stay tuned.